Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Skill Up. My name is Emily Springer, and I am Learning Specialist at NU. So today we're going to be talking about embracing support to get to your why with the director of our Academic Training Academy, Claire DeMarco, and the one and only Dr. Samira Galvao.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to this. If you've been to other skill ups before, I did want to give you a heads up that this session is a little bit more informal. We definitely want to hear from you, hear about your whys, and hear about resources that you need and support that you need. So definitely jump into the chat. And interact with us today. But to kick things off, I want to know a little bit more about you. So I'm going to do a quick poll. And I'm wondering first, what modality you take your courses in. So either you're logging into NU Brightspace every day and doing the class-based modality, or you're in our one-to-one modality at NCU1. And then I'd like to learn a little bit about what level of degree you're enrolled in. All right, it looks like we have a good mix of different modalities. So welcome, everyone. And same with degree level. We have a lot of doctoral folks in the room, so that might be definitely need to know your why if you're going for that level of degree. So welcome, everybody. Let me just end that poll, and I'll show you the results, just in case you're wondering. And then what I would love to know is what brings you here today? What made you decide to register for this skill up and take the time out of your very busy schedules to attend? And if you could throw that in the chat, that would be wonderful. And if you're not comfortable doing so, that's okay as well. All right, taking down those poll results, and hopefully I'll get to start seeing a few things in the chat. But while we're working on that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Galvao.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, nice to see you all. Welcome in. So today we're here we will be discussing how to identify a why. So I'll first start with my personal why. What's the reason why, how I end up getting here. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. My why, I decided to go back to school because my father was the first educator in my life. And back home, I wasn't born in this country. I was born in the Cape Verde Islands. And what happened was they gave up their dreams in order for us to pursue ours. And me being one of 12 kids, being the baby, I made a promise to my dad that I would continue his dream because he gave up his in order to pursue mine, right? To have a better life here in the United States in a better country than back home. So with that being said, I was able to pursue that years later. And in 2020, I was able to complete my degree, becoming a doctor, and I finished his dream. And he was the first person that I also went and introduced myself to as Dr. Galvao. So that was my reasoning for figuring out my why. So that was my personal story, but remember that all of us, our whys are different. All of our upbringings may cause a different why. So it may vary and it may also be different. I'm a first gen, right? I'm a first generation with a doctorate, coming from an immigrant family, you know, that's a big deal. So my reason for that, I already told you guys, was because of my dad, but yours could be school. It could be because of work. It could be your children. It could be because you want to make more money, right? So all of ours are different. Excuse me. So how do you identify your why? So most of us that are here, for whether you're in a doctoral program, you're in a master's program, regardless the program you are in, how do you get to identify your why, right? What was the name of that person or that in your gut that told you, hey, I want to pursue a higher degree? Do you remember what that was? That is usually, I don't know if you guys can see the back here. This is my why board that I created for myself. This goes back to when I was a student, and I also used to do it the old-fashioned way on a piece of paper. I used to write it down every day. I had my why written there, right? And as crazy as it may seem, that was exactly what motivated me, because I wanted to remember that I promised my dad that I wanted to be that person that completed the degree, being the youngest child that he had, right? So for me, I would ask you right now, if you could, do you remember what was your why, or what is your why? If you could just jot it down a little bit right now in the chat, if you remember, what was the reason that you decided to call National University and say, hey, I want to pursue my education. I want to carry on. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. Birthday card. That's the new one. I like that. Oh, you wanted to help others. I love that too. Support from family. Staying in touch with joy. So all these here are great. Competitive, yes. So in order to also be connected to your why, you have to also be set realistic expectations for yourself, right? So when I say set realistic expectations for yourself, I mean you need to be able to commit to yourself and do what's best for you. When I say what's best for you, meaning, you know, are you going to just say, okay, Dr. Galvao, I'm going to go to school, but yet I want to go shopping, right? That right there becomes an issue. So you have to be able to stick to your why and commit by setting yourself a office where you're going to be able to set up all of your school supplies and then jot down the reasons why. And then remember, if it's your child, if it's work, if it's any reason by any means that's other than your why, that means you need to ground yourself back up, right? So with that, I wanted to know if anybody have any questions for me. Self-torture, that's a new one.
Dr. Galvao, a couple of people were saying, I'm not quite sure what my why is. Do you have any strategies that students can use to help them find out what that why is?
Oh, absolutely. So if you haven't figured it out yet, remember when I said earlier, what was the reason, how you got to yourself, you had to call, make that phone call, oh, I'm going to contact National University so I can continue, pursue whether it's a master's or doctoral program or pursue a certificate, right? If you remember that, usually it's within right there. Like for me, like I said, was my dad. When I called, right? I remember telling my husband that I was doing this. He goes, if that's what you want, then I'll support you, right? Because remember, support is also important. So that person or that gut feeling that got you to usually call, and sometimes you'll say, oh, that's not it, that's not it. But your original reason is your why. And the best way, like I said, is always jotting it down somewhere. Like sticky notes will be your best friends. Like if you're stuck in traffic, always have a piece of paper down and remind yourself of your why. Because sometimes you're thinking, oh my goodness, I have to get home and I have homework and I still have to cook and I got to do, yes, you do. But your why is right there. So you always have to remember what was the original thought that you had. So any other questions that was there other than identifying?
Yeah, mainly people just sharing some of their reasons for getting going. I mentioned that a good strategy could be imagining how your life will be different when you're done and kind of see where your imagination takes you. Because, you know, someone mentioned money, which is totally fine. You know, that's okay. But what are you buying? Like, what's in your imagination? You know, that's more of your why. So it's not just the hard money, but it's, I'm using this money to buy family vacations. So my why is around my family and being able to do activities with my family. So having that like little imaginative moment can be beneficial as well. A couple of people did notice that their why has evolved and changed throughout their program, you know, as life changes, and especially if you're in a longer program, it's very natural for things to change. So
It does. And I also see here that I think before you get to why, this was from Dr. Phil here, before you get to your why, know your values, what you're passionate about. Absolutely. Your strengths. Absolutely. That is also another thing too. If your values, your core values also assist you in identifying your why. Because if you're a strong person, you're always there for somebody. You're always there, actually not somebody, you're always there for everyone. But yet you're not there for yourself, right? That is also another way of you reminding yourself that you must remind yourself that, for one, you are your best person to identify your why. Should not identify your why based on others. You are the only person that can, because at the end of the day, at 11:59, you are the only person that have an assignment due, because others are usually sleeping or out partying at 11:59 on a Saturday while we have assignments due. So it's very important to stick and be strong and remember your core values to your why. And now I'll pass it down to Mrs. DeMarco if there are no more questions at the moment.
I don't see anything in the chat, but thank you. All right. So Dr. Galvao talked about your why, some tips and tricks for uncovering that why. And that really is just sort of half the battle to being successful. The next step in the journey is to know about all those supports that you have. And obviously you have your family, friends, colleagues, other people in your lives that are there to support you. Those are very important. But what's also really important is the different supports and teams that we have here at National University. And that's what I wanted to go over today. And this is where I mentioned that informality earlier. If there's something that you've been trying to find or needed some support with and couldn't track it down, throw it in the chat and then we can absolutely cover it during this part of the presentation. So I'm going to start by showing you where to find your general support resources. So where are the links? How do I get there? And it is a little different because we have two modalities here. So for my one-to-one folks, I'm going to have you pause just for 2 minutes while I quickly show our class-based folks how to get to their resources, and then I'll swap over and show everyone in the one-to-one model how they can find theirs. And then eventually, spoiler alert, we'll all be in one location, but that's a whiles away. Okay. All right, so hopefully you can all see NU Brightspace. Excellent. Okie dokie. So I think the easiest way to find links to all your resources is in NU Brightspace is through Homeroom, which is your orientation in the class-based model. So in your course list, you should all have Homeroom in there. And then when you click into Homeroom, right here on the homepage, there's all the links to all your different resource centers and different teams, et cetera, at the university. So I think this is the easiest way to get around for my class-based folks. Now, flipping over to NCU1, the one-to-one model. So I'm wondering if this is intriguing for you all who are seeing the different modalities. But if you're in the one-to-one model, you have this handy-dandy little link up here for resource centers. And if you click on that little chevron next to resource centers, it will bring up links to most of the resource centers that we have here at the university. Some you might have to delve down a little deeper into the Graduate Study Support Center, but most are directly linked here. All right, so let's talk about your first support system here at the university. I wanted to talk a little bit about your faculty member. So for my class-based students, you can find their information in your student portal. For my one-to-one students, you've got your contacts widget in NCU1 where you can find your faculty's contact information. But your faculty is going to be your source of support around the content of your course. So let's say, for example, you're taking a biology course. As much as a lot of our support teams would love to help you with biology concept, they're not going to be able to. That's going to be your faculty member because they are the expert in biology. They know what they're looking for in their assignments. So if you have any questions about the content of the course, definitely your faculty member is going to be your first point of contact. Faculty often will say, email's the best way to get hold of me. So that's definitely a good strategy. Often they'll also provide a phone number, etc. And they do have up to 48 hours to get back to you. So something we recommend is while you're waiting for your faculty member to get back to you, if you have a question about something, is also to then jump into some of our more on-demand resources and support while you're waiting for that response, just so you can keep moving while you're waiting for your faculty's response to your question. So that is your one source of support. And I was wondering if anyone had any questions about faculty role when you would go to your faculty. Don't see anything here. Okay. Dr. Galvao, I'll have you jump in and let me know if any questions pop up, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, that way I'm not trying to navigate multiple things. All right, so we talked about your faculty member. Now let's talk a little bit about service desk. This is our one team that is 24/7. They are always available and they can help you with technology issues. So moving away from your faculty member, who's probably not going to be able to help you at all with a technical issue, we now kind of go to that polar opposite, which is our service desk team. And they help you with technology issues. And like I said, they're 24/7. So that's good. When you're up at midnight doing that not late assignment, but that last minute assignment, and I say I'm a student, and that's definitely me. And for some reason you get that horrible error when you go to upload it, you can call our service desk team, and they'll be able to help you figure out any technical issues. But do bear in mind, they obviously aren't able to help with anything like, oh, what is this assignment asking me to do? Or I don't understand this concept. They're not going to be able to help with those issues, just purely the technical issues. Any questions about service desk? All right, well, now I want to show you some of our teams, and I'm going to navigate from NCU1 just because I'm a student in here, and I think that's the easiest for me. But of course, if I remind my class-based folks, go into Homeroom, you can see those links out to the different resources. So I'm going to start by looking at the Academic Success Center, and I'd love to hear in the chat who's already been in here and used some of their resources. Hopefully there's a few yeses. I think everyone's just nodding their head probably. And so I'm like, yes, okay, good. So the Academic Success Center, this is going to help you with academic skills that aren't content-based. So I mentioned my biology professor, and they're going to help you talk about Krebs cycle or something like that in your paper. But now you're having to write that paper. How do I structure it? How do I format it in whatever style you're being asked to write your paper? That's when you're going to come to the Academic Success Center. I'm going to scroll down so you can see that little table of contents. So you can see here all their quick links to on-demand resources. So a lot of our centers here, they'll have 24/7 on-demand resources, job aids, videos, etc. And you can use those on your own time. But what I really love about our different support centers is that there often is a live chat available. So you can connect with someone right away. So I have a little rule I call the 15-minute rule. Okay, so I'm struggling. I'm trying to create my reference for a website, and I haven't done it in a while, and I'm trying to find the example and the resource, and I can't. Okay, I'm going to give myself 10-15 minutes to figure it out myself, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to get some live support from the Academic Success Center or whoever I need support from. So I want you all to feel really comfortable with jumping on with a live person. And the Academic Success Center doesn't just have live chat, they have live group sessions as well, and a variety of topics. but definitely take advantage of their resources. So I mentioned writing, kind of focused on that, but they also do have math, statistics resources as well, and support in those areas. So that's maybe where slightly different than, say, a biology class. If you're in a statistics class, we do have statistics coaches, and if you're in a maths course, there is math resources as well. But those are really the only topics that the coaches can help you, as well as your faculty member. Any questions about the Academic Success Center?
No questions that I've seen in the chat right now, Claire, but I did want to just real quick mention, since we noticed in the chat there are some people who have just recently started their program. I can't recommend enough some of these resources, these self-directed resources in the Academic Success Center. But please know, as an NU student, you do have access to Grammarly, which is a great tool for editing purposes. And I just wanted to make sure I was able to point that out very quickly, because I noticed we had a few folks who had just recently started their program. So keep that in mind. Grammarly is a resource to you as an NU student.
Yes, I would be failing miserably if I did not have my Grammarly plug-in on my Word.
It's nice to have a free editor, as you know, you're going to need an editing assistant anyway, as you go along in your program, in this iterative process, but Grammarly certainly is a nice perk. Thanks.
Yeah, don't struggle. You know, there's so many resources there. You know, I've helped students in the past, and I'll say, oh, I spent hours yesterday trying to figure out Kaltura. I'm not sure if anyone's used Kaltura yet in the room. I'm like, why did you spend hours? You know, come to us, we're here to help. The people that are in our support teams, they're passionate about this. They want to talk to you. So never feel like you're bothering people. I think sometimes as adults, we're like, oh, I don't want to bother people, but that's why they're here, and they want to support you. All right. One of my absolute favorite teams that are connected with the Academic Success Center are our alumni navigators. I'm going to click over to their page. So these folks are a little different. They are all alumni of National University. So their experience is just like yours. They've been in your shoes. They know how this university works as a student. So they bring a really unique perspective. This is a good place to start, especially if you're a newer student, because they're going to help you with all those skills that you need to be a successful student that aren't necessarily academic. You know, they're going to know a little bit about APA formatting, but where they're going to help you is, how do I navigate this dang LMS? Like, I cannot figure out how to find things. How do I upload my assignment? How do I use that Kaltura? I mentioned that. They're going to help you with those types of skills. So not necessarily academic skills, but skills that you really need to be successful, and can, quite frankly, be some of the most frustrating moments as a student. You know, that technology can be a real stinker. Another thing they can do is listen to you and help you get that why and remind you of the why. They're there to motivate you. They've been there. I can guarantee all of them at some point have struggled with staying motivated and wanting to do this with everything else that's going on in their lives. So go to them for moral support as well. And then some of those sort of other student skills that maybe we're just maybe we've been out of school for a while. So things like building a schedule, like Dr. Galvao mentioned, how do I create a space that's going to be productive for me to go to school? So some of those skill sets, they can walk you through that. But again, they have a live chat, just like our Academic Success Center. And both of those centers, if the chat is not available, you can submit a question after hours as well, and they'll get back to you as soon as they're back online. But they do have a live chat, and they're around evenings and weekends. I think sometimes during the day as well, but most of them they're alumni, they've got their day jobs, so they're coming in their evenings and weekends being available. And let's be honest, for most of us, that's when we're doing our schoolwork. So hopefully that timing works. But we do have a couple that have different schedules that are also available during the day. So definitely jump on with an alumni navigator if you need that type of support. Any questions at this point? All right. Everyone's feeling good. Like it. Okay, so little tip when you're in these centers, you can navigate among all the different support centers by scrolling down and using these little links down here. So just a little tip if you've not noticed this before, because sometimes we just don't scroll down. They are here. So I'm actually going to now flip on over to the library. So we've talked about two really important areas of support: our academic support, the Academic Success Center, our student study skills and technology skills and how to be successful, and moral support from our alumni navigators. So now let's talk a little bit about the library, because we're all at some point going to be writing papers and responding to discussion questions where we need to use sources to back up what we're saying. And it's going to vary depending on degree level, how much you're doing this. Like in doctoral level, like practically you have to breathe and cite it, a little bit more flexible at the bachelor's level. But generally, if you're stating something as fact, you need to have some kind of source to back it up. And that's where our library comes in. Massive database of articles and books and journals that you can use for your assignments. Going in here completely first time innocent to the library, it can be hard. It can be a challenge to know what's search terms to use, different search strategies. And the library does have a lot of on-demand resources as well. If you like to do it on your own time and watch one of their orientation videos, I really recommend that. They have some videos that get a little bit more specific to doctoral research as well. But they also have a chat. So you can see now they're actually saying, hey, need to chat. So they're online as well. Again, not 24/7 like our service desk, but unless you're a sort of a 2 a.m. person, they probably are going to be on here. And again, if they're not, you can submit a question and they'll get back to you as soon as possible. So please do jump on a chat. So again, you're looking for a really good article in the Krebs cycle. I'll go back to my biology example, and you just cannot find it. Again, don't struggle for 2 hours trying to find the right article. Jump on with a librarian. They'll probably tweak one thing in how you're searching, and boom, you'll get all the results that you need. So I think what I'm really focusing on here is get on a chat if you're in any way struggling. These folks want to talk to you. They're here, they're ready. Definitely jump on, and don't worry about, am I in the right place to ask a question? That's a common thing as well. Well, I'm in the library, but I'm needing help with my figuring out where to get my Office 365 software. Now I've got to find the right place to ask the question. No, go in here, say, hey, I know you're probably not the right place to ask, but can you send me over to someone who can help me find my Office 365? Because most of these teams, their chat systems interconnect, so they can just easily transfer you over to that team that's a little bit more appropriate for your question. Any questions on the library and the types of support in there?
So no question on the library so far that has popped up, but keep in mind, if you do have any questions, we welcome them in the Q&A or the chat. There is just one thing I'd like to say, just from using the library as a student myself, and I highly recommend the research consultations. It has really, truly, it has truly helped me just find complete gold in there. And then they've also just taught me different ways on how to do searches correctly. So putting in a little bit of time to know what that looks like is absolutely going to help with your success in your research endeavors. Just wanted to put that little tiny caveat in there.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no,
Claire.
you're right, Emily. That's a huge perk of the library. And you can see here where you can book an appointment one-on-one with a librarian. And I think sometimes with these supports, so we talked about, the quick chat, the on-demand resources, and then there are things like a research consultation, a group session on paraphrasing in the Academic Success Center. And sometimes we feel like we don't have the time to do it. But what happens is you find the time to go to one of these, hour-long maybe sessions or 30 minutes, depending on what it is. And the time you invest there absolutely saves you time in the future, because you're not struggling so much with the skill, and you're getting better grades and everything's going better. So it's definitely a case of sharpening that saw early on, so things go as smooth as possible in the future. So I know it's hard and we're all tired after being at work all day and kids, and but absolutely do try to find the time to use these resources.
And Claire, thank you so much for taking some time to just reiterate that. There was one question that's kind of come up in the chat about being in need of understanding what the current research opportunities are in someone's specific field. And this person was referencing the field of psychology, what are the research opportunities and or needs in that area? And I would recommend, and feel free to chime in, Claire or Dr. Galvao, but a great place to start for that would be a library consultation. And then if you are in a doctorate program, a great space to understand what the current needs are is researching something that you're interested in, but looking at the end of current research to see what suggestions are for future research. That can be gold nuggets of what leads you to your dissertation. And there was a few private messages that went back and forth. I just wanted to address that, and maybe that's helpful for someone else in the room. That's it, Claire. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think I absolutely agree. You can also look at current recent dissertations, because every dissertation will have suggested future study at the bottom as well. Like Emily mentioned, look up topics you're interested in and see what other people are suggesting. So sometimes with especially like dissertation work is hard, don't get me wrong, but there are ways to make it all easier. And it's like, what other people are kind of telling me what future research needs to be done. I'm going to look at that and have them do the thinking and whatnot for me. So that's the nice thing about doctoral studies, is you're just building and building and building, so you can go back to what's already been done and use a lot of that for your foundation. But yeah, great questions. All right. So our focus so far has definitely been on our more sort of academic-y type of world. We've talked about the Academic Success Center, our wonderful alumni navigators, the library, but we need support in other areas. We're not just students. We're dealing with a whole lot of other stuff in our life. So I want to focus on some other of our resource centers that we have here at NU. And just to mix it up, I'm actually going to navigate to these ones from homeroom, just to kind of mix it up. And I want to talk a little bit about our student wellness team. This is a team that sometimes people aren't aware exists, or they think, oh, it's just mental health. But actually, they cover a lot of different issues, or they can support in multiple different ways. So you can see here on their website, they list some of the things that they can help with, including financial struggles. We I think we all feel that, no matter who we are, unless we happen to be a very lucky trust fund baby or something like that. So they can help with those issues, as well as the mental health and other sort of wellness items. But let's be honest, we are full-time students, we are working, we have families, we have the modern world around us. We're probably all at times needing a little bit of mental health support, and that's okay. And we offer something called Timely Care. This is completely free to you. It's well, not online. you talk to the person, but virtual, there we go, that's the word, virtual mental health support 24/7. So you can get the help you need, and it is, like I said, completely free to you. It's easy to set up. You don't have to worry about dealing with insurance and copays and all that stuff. You can just do it through here. Like I said, don't ever feel like this isn't something you can take advantage of. We all need it sometimes. Going to school is really hard. And like I said, we have our friends and colleagues and family. Sometimes we need someone who's a professional to walk us through some of those challenging times. So I want everyone to know that's there, and we encourage you to take advantage of that if you need it. Now, any questions on our wellness center and timely care?
Nothing that's popped up, Claire.
That's popping up. Okay. All right. So for awareness for our veterans and active duty and family folks in the room, we do have a veterans center. So that's available for those specific supports that are unique to our military students and military families. So that is here. Again, if this applies to you, peruse it, but it has those specific supports that folks may need if they are military. So that's our military veteran center. But I mentioned this, that it says veteran, but it's actually for all, active duty families as well, not just veteran students. Any questions about the veteran center? Okay. Now, we've talked about our support centers, our wellness center, our veteran center, talked about our faculty, working with them, talked about service desk, and there are so many great support teams here. But every so often, and we hope this doesn't happen often, but every so often, there may be an escalated issue. And we have this page here, it's called the Report It page, where you can go to and report any major issues. So, maybe you've tried to resolve something with your faculty and your academic finance counselor, and you just feel you need to take it to the next level. This Report It page is where you would go. So it's nu.edu/report it. And there's links for all different types of issues or concerns you may have. The language it's a page for everyone, faculty, students, and staff, but the language is a little faculty facing, so don't let that throw you off. Definitely go down and see which one of these support areas, and it links to some of those teams I did mention. But I do like to mention that if you ever do have a concern around harassment, discrimination, or another type of grievance, this is where you can submit a concern. And much like our chat features, don't worry about, am I going to the right spot? Am I clicking on the right link? Get it there. It's like a triage system, and they'll get you to the right team and get your issue resolved. I hope none of you have to use it, but I want to make sure every student knows this exists and has it handy in case any escalations do arise, because we want to get them resolved. We don't want you struggling alone, frustrated. We want you to come here, submit the issue, and then it gets routed to the right person, and then it gets resolved, and you're feeling better. And we're feeling good because we were able to resolve your issue. So again, jot down that email address, URL, web address, and have that handy in case you need it. But again, fingers crossed, you never do. But better to have it, not need it, and then, or not, versus not having it. Any questions on Report It? All right. The final thing I wanted to mention are our power hours. So we've talked about our internal supports, the support teams and staff, but other students can also be a really great source of support, and that's what our power hours are all about. They are on a couple of calendars in the different centers. They're on a calendar in the ASC, but really the best place to look out for power hours is through your announcements tool in your learning management system. So you'll see a little, when you first log in to Brightspace or MCU1, take a quick pause and just see what announcements are up there, right there on your homepage, because it might be power hours or other great things like the Skill Up. And power hours are just completely open sessions. So we have these formal sessions, skill ups, other events, but sometimes we just want to get together as students, and they're facilitated by either an alumni navigator or one of our ASE coaches, librarians, sometimes folks from the different schools if there's a school-based power hours. And you can just go in there and get the support you need from those staff members and the other students that are there. So it's nice, and you don't have to go the whole time. That's another nice thing about it. Sometimes having to be somewhere at a very specific time is difficult. You can drop in halfway through a power hours, ask your question, say, hey, I need someone to just shake me and say, you can do this. And then you can pop on out when you're done. So definitely keep an eye out for those power hours as well. Any final questions on that before I hand it back to Dr. Galvao to talk about probably your most important support?
I don't see any other questions right now, but if something does come up, feel just so our audience members know, we can always address it at the end. So feel free to send me a chat or put it in the Q&A.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mrs. DeMarco. Those were amazing, amazing. When I say amazing, amazing, all in caps, resources that are definitely useful, whether it is now or later in your program. Please do utilize these resources that Mrs. DeMarco just shared with you all. I thank you for that again. However, now let's address this huge elephant in the room. It's called self-care, right? So most of you know that, you're in school, you're going for another degree, and you're wondering, oh my God, like, how can I do this, right? You are a mother, you're a wife, you're a father, you're a husband, whatever your life is, there's still, excuse me, there's still self-care. And we are the worst at taking care of ourselves, right? And when I say that, I mean, we are taking care of everyone else, but yet we forget about us. And let me tell you, you are the most important person to be able to be taken care of. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be a good resource for others. You cannot be there for anybody else. And most importantly, you will not be able to do this for yourself and submit at 11:59 a great assignment in if you don't take care of yourself. It's just like gas in your car. You can't go get groceries. You cannot take your kids from point A to point B if you don't have gas in your car. Same goes with yourself. You must take care of yourself. So for me, first, most important thing I would suggest is find a schedule that works best for you. Of course, weekends are not going to be included on this. So on a weekday, find a day that you identify that is going to be most important day that you're going to be able to take off. When I say take off, you disconnect and connect with your family, with your friends, those that are there for you. Right? So I used to take Tuesdays. Tuesdays, I worked in the morning, but in the afternoons I did not touch my computer. I didn't touch any electronics, any schoolwork. That was my family day. It worked for me, I'm going to be honest with you, till I hit dissertation phase. And then, instead of taking the whole day, you take a couple hours. You have to be able to adjust, right? So those are some of those things that we have to make sure you are doing for yourself. And of course, while you do that for yourself, make sure you include exercise. And I say that exercise because you know what? Some of us will gain a lot of energy from exercise. Some of us needs to, like for me, it worked. I needed to go for a walk. My walk was when my recharge is when I'm thinking. And I'm going to tell you what I did. I did a walk with my sticky notes and a pencil because I would think of things where I needed to insert something. So I jotted down. Probably sounds crazy, but it's still part of my self-care. I did my walk, right? So that's definitely important. The other thing is surround yourself with others who think like you academically, who think like you in every sorts of way that, go in the comments, make friends in the comments that are in the degree program like you. That's important for us to do as well. Another thing is to remember, no is a complete sentence. Sometimes you'll find those people that are going to tell you, hey, there's a party going on or there's a sale going on at Nordstrom's. No is a complete sentence, because you, at the end of the day, do have homework to do, right? Set boundaries for yourself. Remember, if you don't respect your boundaries, nobody else will. So must be consistent. Set those boundaries and stick to them. Find a good affirmation for yourself, right? When I say good affirmation, mine was, it's right here still. It says, if you can dream it, you can do it, by Walt Disney. And of course, I cited Walt Disney because it's important as a doctoral student or as a student, period. You have to be able to cite, as Mrs. DeMarco said earlier, we always must cite. So that's also important to do. And please remember to celebrate all of your wins, right? Celebrate that grade that you received. You got an A in this class. You got an A- in statistics. Let's celebrate that. How are you going to celebrate that? Go get yourself a pack of gum, a Coke at 7-Eleven if you need to. I don't care what you do. Celebrate and reward yourself, okay? And finally, let me just remind you guys about imposter syndrome, okay? That is a thing. It does happen, right? But when it does happen, please walk away. Walk away and come back a couple hours later. It's okay. And finally, most of us are overthinkers. I do want to tell you that if you are overthinking, it's going to be a regression to your progress, and we don't want that to happen. So let's make sure we keep that in mind. And I promise you, this is my final one. I did it. So can you. Okay? You must take care of yourself, and remember that we are all here to support you, to make sure that you can get this done. And remember your why. Write it down somewhere. Protect yourself in that box of the others that you want to be around. I surrounded myself with people that were like me, meaning I needed that support. If they were ahead in chapter 1 and I was in comps, guess what? I had someone that I could call and say, hey, I'm freaking out. It's okay to say I am freaking out. You're not alone in this. We are in here to support you in all the amazing supports that we have. And I thank you. Are there any questions for us at this moment?
Dr. Galvao, when you
sorry,
mentioned,
go ahead.
sorry, Emily,
ahead.
imposter syndrome, it made me think of two things that often trigger imposter syndrome and something that the alumni navigators can really help with. One, trying to understand what the heck the assignment is asking you to do. That's difficult. Again, we'll go back to, we're doing so much, we're tired, we're mentally tired, and trying to figure out what an assignment is asking us to do. The navigators can absolutely get on a chat with you, help with that. That's also a question you can ask your faculty, but as I mentioned, they sometimes can take up to 48 hours to get back to you. So jumping on with a navigator. The Academic Success Center actually has a group session on how to break down those assignment prompts so you know what's being asked of you. So that's one that seems to trigger imposter syndrome. People thinking, I can't even understand what they want me to do, let alone me doing it. And then the second one is faculty feedback. We love our faculty and they really do genuinely care, but you're going to see some variance in how that feedback might be provided. Some are a little softer than others, and that's okay. We all have different personalities, and sometimes when you get that constructive feedback, maybe you thought you really aced it, that can be some of the hardest moments. And what you absolutely don't want to do is send off a angry email to your faculty member. Nope, you want to head on over to your alumni navigators, jump on a chat with them, have them be your sounding board. They've been there. They know exactly what that is like. And then you'll feel fine. You'll apply the feedback. You'll move on. But those are two big things that seem to trigger that imposter syndrome. So I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Galvao.
Well, thank you, Mrs. DeMarco. You're absolutely correct, because I liked when you mentioned earlier about you have a rule of 15 minutes. That is key. If you know you're struggling, know that you're not alone. Please come into the chat. Join us. Go in the comments if it's the chat. Go in the comments and say, hey, I have a question. Can someone, let me tell you, you'd be surprised how many people will jump in to assist you. We're here to support you. I know we are virtual learners, but virtual learners does not mean you are alone while you are learning. It just means that you need to go virtually and ask your question and we will support you. So do understand that I've been there in your shoes. I know what it's like. Believe me, I ask for help. I'm the first one to tell you, I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on, let me go find some assistance for you. Because sometimes, it may skip you a little bit, but it's okay. Don't give yourself, it's to work smarter, not harder. I tell you all this all the time, work smarter, not harder. So I appreciate you bringing that up as well, Mrs. DeMarco, because this is important. Sometimes you just need a little reminder.
And I wanted to jump in, and again, as we wait, see if there's any other questions. I've just got two things that I want to mention. I know Claire put this in the chat, but I want this to be captured in the recording. The Commons is kind of our internal social media platform currently with the one-to-one students and has been for a very long time, but we are working to bring that entire platform to all NU students. For our class-based students as well too. That's coming soon. So we're pretty excited about that. But one thing that's connecting to the support pieces that we have discussed today that does link to your why. And I think even Dr. Phil said something about knowing your values, knowing what you need, knowing your strengths, weaknesses, all of that is, I would say has, and again, this could be different for each person, but it has some sort of connection to your why, our own personal whys. And what I really heard with the self-care piece is the overthinking and the 15-minute piece. I can't tell you how many times I have been overthinking my alignment for what I need to do, or trying to make my interview protocol more difficult than it actually needs to be. So yes, spending the time to think about those things, but then again, all of these different support systems, I think sometimes it's just maybe it's because we're so busy as adult learners that we're like, oh, I don't have the time for that. But again, putting that little bit of time into that 10 minutes of putting the work in, reaching out to the librarians or the Academic Success Center or the navigators really can help give you that support and boost your why, because then you'll feel emboldened to move forward. And so I think actually that was a comment that was said in the chat. I'm here to kind of just boost my why again, or to just think about it a little bit more. And I hope that these resources that were shared today and these ideas about kind of what your why is and how to tie that into self-care really does boost those who are looking for that information today. I'm gonna see if there's any other I didn't see any other questions that came up, but I want to see if there's any other final comments from you, Claire, or Dr. Galvao before we close out today's session.
Emily, I think what you said was a perfect cherry on top for the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. I am going to throw in a link to the alumni navigators in the chat. I want everyone to copy and paste that and keep that somewhere. Start with them if you're ever unsure where to go.
No, thank you. Please, if you have any questions, come join me on the afternoon tea with Dr. Galvao or the ESOL Power Hours. That's where all the why is happening. So I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for coming today.
Absolutely. And thanks so much to you, Dr. Galvao and Claire, for coming and hosting our session today. I appreciate you both. And until the next time, I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Take care.